Everyone, my name is Alyssa Goodeaux. I am a connection coach, and today I wanted to talk real quick about conviction. If you are starting new good habits or you're trying to break old bad ones, something that plays a big part in whether or not you succeed in that is conviction, or how convinced you are that it's actually going to be good or bad for you to do these things or to not do these things. So for example, in my life, I know that for a long time, eating right just didn't, I wasn't convinced or convicted at all that I needed to make better choices because there was nothing going on in my life that demanded that. We ate poor most of my life. We did what we could. We got all the cheapest stuff. We made a lot of rice and gravy over the years. If you're from the South, then you probably know how that is. Sometimes you just got to make do. And I never realized how greatly that impacted my life because it wasn't immediately noticeable to me. And so it took something that related with me in my personal life to truly convict me. And what that was my ears would get clogged up to the point where I couldn't hear for weeks and, for a month at a time. I couldn't hear anything. I was having to, the TV was like full blast every time. If people tried to talk to me, I'd be like, what are you saying? It was awful. And it really took me getting down to the bottom of why that was happening. Having healthy fats and drinking water and the emotional side of it. Like, what are the things that I'm avoiding that I don't want to hear? What are some of the things that I don't want to face? Or with my kidney problems, I was constantly, because I was making bad choices with what I was putting in my body. I was having constant UTIs and kidney stones and all these other things, and anger, a lot of resentment and fear that I wasn't dealing with. And because it got to such an enormous problem, I had to actually step back and realize this is directly affecting what's going on in the long term. Just because I'm having this one soda right now and I'm thinking, oh, well, it's not that big of a deal, it's just one, I'll just make sure I drink a lot of water in place of that. I wasn't convicted on it, was what's happening. And outside of that, it was also the pleasure. It's really hard to start breaking old habits. If you're addicted to the soda like I was, you're not going to be so keen on going, I don't want this soda because it's bad for me, because it's so far into the future is what it feels like. You never see a direct result of it until it really builds up all at once. So if you are struggling to get organized, or if you're struggling with time management or drinking or smoking, anything like that, you can actually start to convince yourself that, yeah, maybe it's not that great, or maybe you think that doing those things you think that they're good, but they're not for you, or, just whatever we tell ourselves, you're just not convicted on it. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You don't have to be upset with yourself for it, but you have to, that's kind of the process of getting beyond it, is realizing that it's just not something that I feel convicted on. I'm not convinced that I need to do this for my life to be better, because my life really isn't that bad. Whatever story you're telling yourself, this is how you get beyond that. And if you're having, if you're starting to do things out of pleasure, I know I struggled with laziness for a while, because I felt like I was doing all the things that I needed to do in the immediate, but in the long term, I didn't realize how being motivated and constantly being active and constantly finding something to do that would benefit me in the long term, I didn't understand how that would be beneficial. And so there were certain things, you can, especially if you're starting a business, you kind of think, well, that's going to be a lot of hard work. That's going to take a lot of research, and that's going to, it turns your life around. Doing these things turns your life around. And I was just too lazy, was really what it was. I didn't find pleasure in forcing myself. I want to sit and watch Netflix all day. I want to sit and read instead of doing something, and so you start to tell yourself different stories. And if you start listening to these stories, then you can really start getting to the bottom of why you do the things that you do, why you struggle making different choices. So what is your narrative telling you? I'd love to hear in the comments, and chat with you. Thank you so much for listening.